Hey, welcome back. I have another video, and this one here is weirdly out of place because I don't know what happened. I recorded this. I know I did, and I thought I uploaded it. Thought I had put it on my channel, and I haven't. So I need to do this again. And sorry about this being out of order. I'm really not sure what happened. Um, I can't even find my original um, video that again I know I made. So I'm very confused what I've done. I think I must have deleted the video when I was clearing out other older videos that I just keep on my hard drive, and just unfortunately had not uploaded it like I thought I did. So yeah. Anyways, a little bit behind, but we'll get that fixed right now. So, um, the Old World Almanac for last week was about magic, and it was a really great article. I'm sure everybody has seen it by now, and this is going to be old news, but that's okay. I'm still going to go through with this because, for the sake of completionism, I want to cover all the weeks. And if you haven't seen it, I'm glad that I was able to get this to you. So, Magic is very different now. We don't have Magic Phase anymore. We don't have Magic Power Dice. Instead, we have Magic that's put throughout the turn. Every single phase is going to have magic, and they've broken it down by the type of magic, which we'll cover here a little bit further into the article. And they work very different, but still at the same time, kind of the same. You'll see what I mean. So, because this is set before the Colleges of Magic, they've also decided to do away with the old 8 Battle Magic lores and replace them with brand new ones in the core book, although other ones are going to be available. We've already seen something for the Tomb Kings a couple, 3 weeks back, 4 weeks back, whatever it was. It's probably been longer than I think because time goes by so fast. And that just tells me that factions will get their own in certain cases. I could expect the Empire's probably going to have maybe not their own lore, but it's going to have like the priest spells. I'm sure things like that are going to happen, and otherwise everyone's going to have these 8 lores to pick from, dependent on their wizards who and what they can take. So I guess technically not everybody will have everything, but if you're familiar with Magic at all, you're going to understand that every wizard had a certain number of lores available to them, and those were the ones they had to pick from, and it's no different here. They will pick one of their available lores at the start of the game, and that's what they can draw from. So the ones they give us now are Battle Magic, Dark Magic, Daemonology, Elementalism, High Magic, Illusion, Necromancy, and Wa Magic. So, with these, we are getting a mixture of things that sound familiar and things that are completely new sounding. And I think that the goal here for them was to basically give us stuff that still feels like Warhammer Magic without completely relying on the old lores as they stand, or as they stood, sorry. With the only one being, there's only 2 here I find are major standouts in terms of weird to see them inside the core book, and that's Necromancy and Wa Magic. Now, some of the others do seem, somewhat familiar. Dark Magic, Battle Magic, and High Magic are all magic lores we had before, and they're just obviously being reimagined into core book lores instead of faction lores, specifically Dark and High Magic. But Necromancy and Wa Magic were directly tied to specific factions. Necromancy being a Vampire Count's lore, and Wa Magic, obviously, for those who know, orcs and goblins used Wa Magic, the big and the little Wa. I don't think those exist anymore. Now you just have Wa Magic that's going to be in the core book. My guess is because these armies are either not going to be the first ones to get books, or are going to be PDF books. That's why we're seeing the lores here that we have. And then we have some other cool ones. I think a standout one here also is Daemonology, which sounds super cool. The idea of your wizard dabbling in demonic magic. It's going to have like a real cult of chaos feeling. Harken over to the Gotrek and Felix books where there's like secret cults doing spells in the dark corners of the Empire. I'm just a little worried this one does involve summoning demons, only because of like PTSD, remembering 7th edition 40k and the summoning lore for demons. It was crazy. Hopefully, there's a lesson that's been learned there, and they haven't just decided to put that into fantasy. And yeah, anyways, I'm gonna move past that. Demonology, weird one, but still really exciting if there is a small amount of demonic summoning, since we're not getting them um, as a core faction yet. This might be a way to sneak some demons into our armies. Moving on, each lore has 7 spells, including one signature spell that everybody seems to know. It's a little bit different than it was before. I think in 8th edition they had signature spells, but you could just swap over to them, if I recall. Um, Maybe that's not how it worked. I think the more I think about it, I think you knew that before too. It's been a little bit since I've played my fantasy armies. It's been a bit of a dry spell for me in wargaming in general the last couple of months. But yeah, you get 6 to pick from, plus the signature and every wizard has 1 spell per level, is basically the way I'm reading it, because they have 1 to 4 spells depending on their level. And if you could have 2 to 5 spells per wizard, that's pretty solid. It's going to give you a lot of selection. You're only going to have, on a level 4, a couple of spells out of the 7 you don't know. And if we have even the mild levels of swapping like we used to have, you should be okay getting the things you want. And the spells are broken into categories. These are categories that are also based around the phase of the turn. So during the strategy phase, you get enchantment and hex spells that can affect your units and the enemy's units by basically buffing or debuffing them. Then you have conveyance during the movement phase to help move units around in different ways. Magic missiles and magical vortexes go in the shooting phase. One's a direct damage, like fireballs, and one is like swirling, tornadoes of magical energy that cause a lot of problems. They were sort of crazy in 8th edition. Hopefully they're toned down because they were still very cool. They were too much. And assailment. These spells are these are ones that go into combat. They cause your guys to probably get better or theirs to get worse in combat. Um, we'll have to see how that one goes. I think there is one shown down here, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes. And yeah, magic is basically done the same way. You pick a spell, and it has a casting value, a conjuration value, they're calling it, I think. No, casting value. And you just roll 2d6. Before, we used to have like either magic cards, if you go back to like 5th and 4th edition, or we had power dice that was based on the number of wizards and the number of wizard levels, or just random chance of the wins, depending on which edition, between 6th and 8th. And anyways, you would just use those until they were gone during the magic phase. And if you were dispelling, you'd have a certain number of dice as well. This one here gets rid of all that. You just have 2d6 per spell. There might be ways to get more dice. I don't know. Probably items. But then you also add your wizard level. So it's a really nice, simple way to cast, but still feels very familiar without going, directly back to what we used to have. After that, they bring up the miscasting. So that's the big thing that Magic always sort of, kept looming over you as you cast your spells every turn. Basically, if you roll double ones, you have a miscast. The wizard says the spell wrong in some way, or something goes wrong in general, and a variety of bad things happen. The chart's a little more forgiving than it was before, although it can be in some ways a little punishing as well, which we'll get into in a minute why it's more punishing in terms of just miscasts in general. But first, you have, what is this, 5 options? Yeah, 5 things that can happen. And from 2 to 6, they are just either a big or a small explosion centered on your wizard that's high strength and high AP, and it's going to basically hurt the wizard and all the dudes. A big or a small explosion centered on your wizard that's high strength and high AP, and it's going to basically hurt the wizard and all the dudes around him, friend and foe. So, a 2 to 4 is going to blow up 5 inches. It's going to grab like a bunch of guys in his unit, and at strength 10, AP minus 4, just basically kill them all as long as they're hit. As long as they're wounded. Just basically, you're hoping to roll ones. because no one's really walking away from that in most cases. 5'6", a little bit less at 3 inches, 6 strength, AP -2, but still dangerous. 7, this one here is just the wizard is hurt, strength 4, AP -1. Wizards likely don't have a lot of armor, if any, so it's just going to be a strength 4 hit, which for a lot of wizards is probably going to be like wounding them on a 4 or a 3, so definitely one to, still be worried about, where wizards tend to only have a couple of wounds. But then at 8 and 9, 10, 12, this is where the spell still goes off, but your magic attempts for that turn end. At that point there, you can't cast any more magic regardless of the phase it goes into. So if you have a miscast phase 1 strategy phase and you have an 8, 9 or a 10, 12, that spell goes off, but that's the end of it. No more for the rest of the turn. With the only difference otherwise for these two being that the other player can still dispel the spell that you've cast and miscast with on the 8, 9. And on a 10, 12, the only difference being they can stop it. They can't stop it because it's a perfect invocation, which I'm assuming is irresistible force. And we do see down here, perfect invocation is a double 6 to cast. It's the opposite of a miscast. The spell cannot be stopped because the person said it perfectly. And yeah, after that, we have dispel attempts. And dispel attempts are basically the same as they were before. You're going to roll some dice and then add your wizard level, and you just basically need to beat the enemy roll. The difference here being that you don't have, a certain number of dispel dice that you can pick from. It's always going to be 2d6 plus your level. And also that now you have to roll higher than the target spell, not just tying it. That's going to make it's going to make stopping spells a little harder, which is nice because in 8th edition it was a little too easy to stop versus cast. And yeah, I'm okay with that. They also tell us that the range of dispelling is now locked to the caster level. Level 1 and 2 casters can only dispel within 18 inches, and level 3, 4 within 24 inches. Before, you could dispel anywhere on the board. Now you have to be nearby. Flying wizards are going to be kind of clutch, I think, in a lot of cases. So Pegasus and any other way you can have a flying wizard, basically. That might be something to keep in mind for more competitive play when you know you need to be sort of Johnny on the spot with those dispels. And the other big difference here is how dispelling works. Now, because it works the same way as casting, you roll 2d6 plus your level, you still get to have, a perfect dispel. They're calling it unbinding on double 6s. That means if they have a total of, 18, let's say, on their dice roll somehow, and you roll double 6s and you get +2, you're still going to stop it because of the double 6s, even though your total number is lower. But on the flip side, we also have double 1s. This is miscasting for dispel. They call it outclassed in the art. Your wizard rolls 2 dice, and he gets double 1s. You now have to roll in the miscast chart. That's completely new, and it makes dispelling a very dangerous prospect compared to before. In the past, all that happened if you failed is the spell went off like it was going to happen anyways. Now the spell goes off, and your wizard might blow up. And I'm assuming what might also end their dispel for the turn. I don't know how that's going to work. It's not clearly laid out, but I would imagine it works basically the same. They also mentioned that there's going to be other ways, like magic items and stuff, that get you more casting and dispel power. And it's going to be down to basically building a proper list. We've already seen there's lots of list building that's going to be possible, and it's going to give us different potential in our lists, and that's really nice to see. I do feel that one of the biggest complaints that I'm probably going to be stuck with throughout 10th edition 40k is the lack of real list building. It's really nice at times because you can quickly throw together a list, but there's no nuance to it. You wind up with very similar lists all the time because you never have to worry about, do I have the points for that las cannon? Do I have the points for this upgrade or that upgrade? You just have everything in that unit. And so you're just basically going, what's the most efficient way to get the units I want? Here we're going back to classic army building, which is great. Next week we're going to see an article that goes more in depth into that. And I'm really looking forward to that as well because list building is super fun. Now, the only other thing they tell us, Fated Dispel is another new thing they've added. This is simply you can do a dispel roll once per turn that has no attachment to any of your wizards. This means that you get 2d6 unmodified, and you just basically get to stop a spell if you don't have a wizard available for whatever reason. So that's really nice. Some armies are going to need that. And if your wizards die, you're going to need that. So it's a nice little extra thing to have. And they also note that magic resistance is going to be in the game on certain units, and it's going to be a way to make it harder to cast against units. Basically, the way it works is that if your unit has magic resistance X, X is simply the number you reduce the casting value by, or sorry, the casting roll by. So if they roll, a 7, then it becomes a 5 for them because you have magic resistance 2 in this case. And yeah, so after that, we go into a Bretonnian unit. That is going to give us our first look at a magic user. This is Handmaidens of the Lady. Now, the first thing I think that's important to note is they've combined the hero and lord level characters onto one sheet. I don't know if that's going to be how it goes in our lists, in our books. I hope it is, because you know what? That looks great. It takes out one unit from the list that doesn't need to be there, saves some space, and they basically always work the same, where just the lord level is a little bit better, so it's fine by me to put them into one. And what you can see here by the stats, it's exactly that. The prophetess, the lord level, she's just better than the damsel in terms of raw stats. After that, we can see that she's regular infantry and a character, and that she goes on a 25 by 25 millimeter base, unit size of 1 because she's a character, and she has a hand weapon. And for magic, prophetesses are level 3, and damsels are level 1, and they each know spells from one of the following lores they pick at the start of the battle: battle magic, elementalism, and illusion. We can also mount them on something. It's not listed here. I think it says somewhere, yeah, down here, that they can have Warhorse, Bretonnian Warhorse, Royal Pegasus, or a Unicorn. My guess is we'll have a separate sheet that tells us all the different mounts available to Bretonnians and who can ride them, how much they cost, and so on. It's probably just a way to keep pages clean, which I'm all for, because sometimes there was very repetitive information on every single character. Put it in one spot and just tell me that, you look there and you'll know who can take what. After that, we can find out that magic items are indeed back, and just like before, lords can have 100 points and heroes can have 50, and each extra magic level, so taking a 3 to a 4 or a 1 to a 2, is 30 points. In the past, it was 35. Finally, we get special rules: Aura of the Lady, Blessings of the Lady, Lore of the Lady, Magical Attacks, Magic Resistance -2, and Shield of the Lady. And we're going to go see some of these further down. And I'm going to move on quickly, though, to unicorns, who they also show off are monstrous cavalry on a 40 by 60, unit size 1, hooves and horn counts as a hand weapon, with the special rule of Armor Bane 2, unicorn only, Armored Hide 1, Beguiling Aura, Countercharge, Magical Attacks, Stomp Attacks 1, and Swift Stride. So between your character and your unicorn, there's a ton of special rules. We know from the article this week, again, we're out of order, I'm sorry about that, that there's 75 universal special rules, and we can see that she, and those the core ones, sorry, and then each faction will have more. So we can see that, of the 75 core, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably 9 of them available here, plus another 4 Bretonnian ones. So that's a lot of special rules if she's on a unicorn, but because of the way it's now set up, in that, 75 rules in alphabetical order, it still won't be that bad. Once you know your rules, for the most part, you'll just be going and checking 1 or 2 every game, and where it's in alphabetical order, don't worry, it'll be quick and painless. Unicorns are fast. They're faster than horses by 2 movement. Weapon skill is 4, strength is 4, no toughness, no ballistic skill. Adds +1 wound to the rider, I'm guessing, with 5 initiative and 2 attacks. No leadership because it uses the rider leadership. Unicorns sound good. Better than a regular horse. Still pretty decent in combat, but you're not really going to rely on it either. So, yeah, when she's in a unit, she gives them magical attacks and magic resistance -2, so that's awesome. Magic attack gives bonuses against certain targets. I don't recall what they said. Magic resistance, I already explained. And she gives them Shield of the Lady, or sorry, she has Shield of the Lady, which lets her go into the back rank and still cast her spells. This is an old Bretonian thing. The ladies would stand out of the way, kind of in the center. Now they're in the back. She's basically pulling a Skaven lead from the rear, and she's going to be back there casting her spell safely while still being part of the unit. And as a battle magic user, she can take Hammer Hand, signature spell, which is Assailment. That's the one that happens in close combat. 7 plus to cast, combat range. A single enemy unit the caster is engaged with in combat suffers 2d3 strength for hits, each with an AP of -2. Solid little attack. Illusion. She has Glittering Robes, which is an enchantment. 8 plus casting value, self. Until your next start of turn subphase, enemy units suffer -1 modifier to any rolls to hit made against the caster and any unit they have joined. If this spell is cast, the effects of other enchantments already cast on the unit expire automatically. And Elementalism, their signature spell is Stormcall. So now we know 3 new signature spells from 3 of the 8 core lores. This is a Hex, casting value 7 plus, 12-inch range. So again, the ranges are quite short in this edition. Magic is going to be up close and personal, so much more dangerous. And until the next start of turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers -1 to its movement and initiative to a minimum of 1. And again, if that unit's already hexed, then the other hexes automatically expire. So only 1 hex or enchantment per unit, it seems. No stacking, and that's fine. It could get out of hand pretty quick. So, in summary, even though Magic is simplified and different, it's still very tactical, which I agree with based on what I'm seeing here. There's a lot of movement-based thought that has to go into your turn when it comes to Magic, and also there's some risk and reward when it comes to that those castings. If you're really worried about getting something cast in the shooting phase or the movement phase, it might be worth skipping your strategy phase. If you're worried about a miscast, not something I would normally do unless it was like that one spell in the shooting is what's going to win this game. In that case, there obviously don't take any risks. Just wait for that one. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff here, and based on what we already learned this week, it's going to be, a pretty solid an addition. And, just what we've learned in general. I'm very happy with everything so far. Little things here or there seem like they're maybe not that great, but I've never played an edition where I was perfectly happy. And as far as Magic goes, this might be the best version. We'll have to wait and see once we get all the spells in front of us and how they're, comparing to each other. But in terms of just using the spells, I actually like this a lot. It takes away a lot of the just random luck that the game sometimes relied on, or just the outright annoying builds that you would make just to be obnoxious with Magic. So I'm not against this. Anyways, next week is not Universal Special Rules. We already have that. It's going to be Army Selection, and I look forward to covering that one on time. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.